Item 10C, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a contract with Anderson Bruno Associates to prepare a community facilities vision plan in the amount of $169,500 and authorizing a project contingency amount of $25,000 for a total not to exceed project budget of $194,500.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Earlier this year, your February 23rd City Council meeting, the Council approved an official response to a proposal by the San Bruno Community Foundation to fund 4 specific projects as an early initiative to deploy the $70 million restitution funds that is under the custody and control of the foundation. Among those projects was the completion of a community facilities vision or master plan that would respond to priorities identified by residents of our community through the foundation's community listening campaign that was completed just about a year ago. That listening campaign demonstrated a very strong interest among our residents for replacement, improvement, and/or some sort of redevelopment, reconfiguration of several of our important community facilities, including our recreation center, our library, our swimming pool, and although we don't have one, a community center that would serve a minimally met need with the shared use that this facility currently experiences on a very heavy basis. The community facilities vision plan was proposed by the foundation to be completed in 2 stages, and the City Council endorsed and agreed to the proposal that the foundation provided. Those 2 steps included a pre-planning phase that would develop a roadmap and an outline, a game plan, if you will, for the completion of the more comprehensive vision plan. And step 2 then would be the completion of the more comprehensive vision plan. In order to proceed with those initiatives, the city contracted with Anderson Bruno Architects to complete the pre-planning initiative in coordination with a subcommittee of the City Council, Councilmember Irene O'Connell and Mayor Ruane, along with representatives from the foundation and city staff. That group, the steering committee, if you will, carefully reviewed the report that resulted from the pre-planning initiative with a strong focus on focusing the priorities for the development, those facilities that are attain the highest level of priority among as needs identified by our residents. And the other primary objective of the review conducted by the committee was an expedited schedule for completion of the community facilities vision plan. Although a broad-based, comprehensive planning process could extend to 2 years or potentially even longer, it was the strongly identified goal and objective both of the City Council as articulated through your subcommittee and with the foundation to narrow that down as much as possible so that we could be in a position to be ready to plan further for delivery within approximately 6 months. After working closely through the foundation and the committee with ABA, Anderson Bruno Architects, to craft the vision plan work program to address these objectives, the subcommittee, along with the foundation representatives who met last week, recommended that the city contract directly with ABA to complete the vision plan as opposed to the original intent, which was to go out with an RFP to solicit alternative architectural firms for the strategic planning process. Anderson Brule has provided a proposal for this focused and expedited planning process. And the committee, along with the foundation and staff, are jointly recommending to you that Anderson Brule has both a company expertise in this type of planning initiative, but having also completed both the pre-planning as well as a previous assignment for the foundation itself, which was to produce a cost model for the foundation as it was entering into its planning for deployment and investment of the foundation funds. Anderson Brule has developed an expertise not only in their subject matter, but with understanding the goals and objectives, the needs, and the current status and situation within this community. Anderson Brule is an architecture and interiors firm. I'm not sure exactly what that means. But they have specialized expertise in master planning and community outreach. ABA has been working with communities like ours for over 30 years to plan and create projects that reflect the specific and unique goals, objectives, and visions of the communities that they work in, particularly around issues of budget, schedule, and results. The proposal that ABA has submitted outlines a work program that I've identified already as adhering to a concise timeline of 6 months. And it also includes those features that the committee considers to be important to the successful outcome of the planning process. And that is the gathering and analysis of broad-based community input regarding the 4 identified community facilities that have been identified as preliminary priorities through the community listening campaign. Those facilities, as I mentioned, include the community center, recreation center, library, and swimming pool. But specifically, this community facilities vision process is intended both to build understanding of the reality of needing to make choices in order to identify specific priorities, as well as to develop community expertise and understanding about cost issues associated both with the development of the facilities as well as their long-term operations and maintenance. Anderson Brule has developed, as I mentioned, a broad-based community outreach process that consists both, or collectively, of community meetings, pop-up outreach at venues and events where people would otherwise naturally be gathering, along with a survey. This outreach technique is very similar to the successful strategy that was used actually to develop the very strong input that the city received on its walk and bike plan, but also by the foundation last year in its community listening process. The outreach will focus on gathering information from the community about the value and the impact that community members assign to the community facilities under discussion in order to synthesize and develop specific interests and prioritize those interests. Recognizing that the amount of funding available through the foundation is not sufficient to cover all of the costs associated with replacement, improvement, or redevelopment of all of the facilities under consideration, the work that ABA proposes to perform will integrate cost modeling data, as I mentioned, including both development as well as operating and maintenance costs, to facilitate that community consensus about actual project priorities. The proposal that ABA has provided to us includes a fee of $161,500, costs of $8,000, for a total contract amount of $169,500. Staff is requesting a $25,000 contingency, which is obviously a bit more than 10%, to allow for the opportunity, without returning to the City Council, to expand the scope of the work a bit as needed and under the direction of the City Council Subcommittee, again, in order to allow the process to move forward in an expedient and collaborative manner. Total cost of the project, including the contingency, would then be $194,500. The foundation has agreed to fund the costs of the community facilities vision planning process. $25,000 has already been spent on the pre-planning initiative, leaving approximately $275,000 remaining in the $300,000 amount originally committed by the foundation. That amount should be more than sufficient to cover the costs of this contract, and we recommend your adoption of the resolution tonight so that we can move forward immediately with the first sort of public opportunity to participate being as soon as next month or early September. We look forward with great anticipation to be able to complete this exciting project.
Great. We do too. Any questions for the manager at this time? Okay, Rico?
Through the chair. Just on the tail end, you'd said the $25,000 for possible expanding the scope. Can you define for me what is expanding the scope within $25,000 and what?
Well, so
and go to the subcommittee and just help me understand.
Yeah, sure. So it may be, for example, if we found that another outreach opportunity, another community meeting, or another group meeting, or some other type of activity might be necessary or desirable in terms of forwarding the work program, that funds would be available to do that. I forgot to mention earlier that Kate Rivard of ABA is in the audience tonight. She's happy to take any additional questions, and I just ask if you had any additional thoughts about that, what kinds of contingencies might arise in a project like this. If you have some thoughts, if you'd come to the podium.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and through the chair, I met Kate earlier before the meeting, and I'd like her to sort of, even though you did a very good job of promoting the company, I'd like to hear some things from her and from her company.
Sure, I'm sure she's
offer.
happy to do that.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Kate Rivard with Anderson Brule Architects. I'll begin just with an introduction that seems to make sense. As Connie mentioned, ABA has been working with communities like San Bruno for over 30 years, leading them through processes like this, considering what the possibilities are with their communities and also building successful projects. As mentioned, we are an integrated architecture and interiors firm, which means that we do everything from the buildings themselves to what is inside, and that really gives us a unique insight and experience that helps with that planning process to be able to look ahead and be able to inform that process. Our work in master planning and strategic planning actually grew out of that work, understanding that often in embarking on these types of projects, there's questions about what direction a community wants to go, key decisions that need to be made, questions that need to be asked, and that process, and the process actually that we've proposed here, is asking those key questions and working with the community to find those answers. As mentioned, often it is additional meetings or some additional outreach that can come up during a process that at the beginning a process is put together and a plan's put together, but sometimes along the way new information is discovered that says, you know what, this is really something that should happen to get the answers that we need, or a follow-up that needs to happen to really gather a complete picture. And by having a contingency, it really allows the city to respond a little bit more in the moment and as that evolves, and working with the community and the community's needs as that goes forward.
If I could expand on that just a little bit. One of the things that we've done over the course of the last couple of months working with ABA on completing the pre-planning initiative has been to really focus and hone in on what this process is intended to produce, both in terms of the schedule as well as the work program. It is a very robust community outreach agenda that is incorporated in this next phase of the work. But I'm sure that ABA would tell you that we've cut off a lot of the things that they originally suggested might be part of this process, and the $25,000 contingency, as Kate indicated, might be an opportunity if for example, a new interesting idea were to emerge from the community outreach about how a combined facility or a different permutation of the way that the facility development might occur were to arise. It would give us the resources to be able to make sure that we could complete the cost modeling and make sure that we had all of the information so that when we return to you, we have a complete product and we have a good handle around the community's priorities.
Okay. Last thing. So I think you answered that question already before I even asked it, which was, it was maybe set at a broader scale of outreach timeline, and it was kind of brought down a little bit. Is that a fair statement?
Very much so.
Okay.
Yes.
So that was, as we
I think
talked
that's
on
almost an understatement.
Irene and I are from Florida, and we're trying to do the same thing, because
Yes.
obviously there's been an outreach. So now you're taking a narrower scope
Yes.
and going back out and saying, with these here, where's the priority of the community and what would they like to see? Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Oh, I just want to mention, one of the things we talked about is also the possibility of mailing things out that hasn't been mentioned here. So that might be something we would use contingency money for, to inform people of what's happening, or to do a written survey or whatever we might come up with.
Thank you. Yes, ABA, I did forget to say that. ABA's proposal does not include the costs of community mailings. Those would be costs that would be borne by the city, and the contingency would be an opportunity to cover those expediently.
Okay.
As I mentioned, I did meet Kate, and I planted a seed in what my concern is. I'm interested, as an architect, I can appreciate the importance of, getting to know your client and, and doing the outreach and communicating and developing the plan and everything. But I'm dealing with one or two individuals. You're going to be dealing with hundreds, possibly 1,000. And how do you come to a consensus? How do you come to a point where you're going to be able to actually design something? Because I would say that you probably could be the one that actually takes this information and actually starts doing a design, for the city if need be. And part of that is that as you go through these outreach meetings and things and listening to our residents, what will you show them? What can we expect to see at near the end where we can say, yes, that's what we want. We can see it and we can visualize that. Mm-hmm. And then my last thing is, again, so this is the trend of how municipalities do big projects like this, and if you can say that, in 30 years, what sort of projects have you seen through fruition, and what I guess what I'm saying is, if you do something up to this point, and then we pass it off to to another designer, you know, what happens in there? Or is it better to, you know, to stay with ABA, you know, because,
Tell you to go away.
yeah. Is that part of the plan? It's like, okay, we've gone through this process, now, you know, it seems that the community is satisfied, they know what they're gonna get. What do you do then?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, I know it's a lot, but I'm just trying to see
A
what's
couple
going on.
questions there. So this step of the process will not include design per se. That would definitely be a next step. What this process will prepare you for would be the next steps of design. So it will be looking at the different possible options and helping present information and working with the community so that a prioritization can happen. And that then the city could say, okay, this or this combination of projects is the highest priority, this makes sense as a path to move forward, and that then as a next step you could move forward with the design. Of course, you know, Anderson Brule Architects would love to be involved in that work, but we would certainly encourage the city to, once there's a strong understanding of what the scope of that next step would be to go out for and request proposals from firms to pursue that. So, setting the context for this effort, we believe that would be a reasonable next step. As far as what people will see in this step, the key part will really be focusing on that breadth of community engagement and making sure that we're bringing information to the community so that there can be a meaningful discussion about what the priorities should be. So the type of information that we'll be bringing to the community will be helping them to understand the budget constraints that we're working with, helping them to understand the likely costs or cost models for the various projects and what that means, both looking at the actual, you know, development costs of building the structure, but also understanding the ongoing operational costs and potential revenue of the different projects. In addition to understanding that, it will be important for the community to understand their own needs. Each individual may understand from their own perspective what is important in their life, but we'll be helping the community as a whole to understand this particular needs of San Bruno as a whole, and where these potential projects might be able to meet those needs and have an impact. As a part of that, of course, we're going to be bringing our team's experience of understanding what these different types of projects can do for a community. The current trends that are happening, for instance, libraries have changed dramatically in the last 10 years in the types of services and value that they bring to their communities, as well as the changes that are happening with community centers and pools, and being able to express that in a way that the community can understand. So having inspirational images of things that can include, including the key features and things like that. So really covering each of those aspects of the possibilities of what can be, the money involved, and as well as connecting with the actual needs of the community and being able to look at all of that together and make a holistic decision about where the priorities should be with the community. You mentioned the concept of consensus, and one of the key focuses of our community engagement is effective listening. So making sure that we're capturing what we're hearing and that we're reaching out to a breadth of the community. That involves using multiple types of community engagement, from more traditional kinds to, you know, things that are more modern or more flexible, from going to where people are, meeting them there, being online, being flexible in that way, and then bringing back what we've heard. So, you know, things as simple as you're hearing that input, being able to see it written on a flip chart or seeing it on the screen so that people can see their words and their input being reflected. Or very simple activities of seeing different options and being able to interactively work with those options and make those trade-offs in almost, you know, a fun game-like way, but that you're really dealing with those choices and prioritizations in an interactive way that allows a depth of discussion and input that is really helpful for understanding where the community's priorities are and being able to make decisions then with that information.
Good. We're very experienced in that,
Mm-hmm.
and we've gone through transportation issues. We went through whole process with the transit corridor plan, and we got good input from the community. We did a lot of flip charts, we did a lot of bubble diagrams and everything, but then we also came about with some artist renditions. And I always know, I mean, again, speaking from the designer standpoint, that client wants to see something. They want to see, okay, what is, where is that going to be? How's that going to be? How's it? We know what we don't want. I mean, do you have, when you say inspirational images, is that sort of like artist renditions and what possibly could be here?
It will be something.
What's worked in other communities and things?
It would certainly include a variety of things, but it would be things like benchmark images of other facilities that would be of a similar size, as well as more like interior images that would show what the experience of using the type of things would be. For instance, something like a maker space in a library, which is a place where people are really able to have hands-on learning and work with something. Just a word maker space doesn't necessarily mean very much, but being able to see a couple images of what that might include and what it might look like, that type of information. So it would really be a collection, a collage of the different things that would be pulled together. And of course, we have a couple consultants that we're working with as well that are very connected with key features and trends in each of the types of projects that we're looking at. And so we'd be working with them to bring the specific features that would be appropriate for a community like San Bruno.
If I could just add, I want to make sure that we're clear that part of the rescoping and narrowing the focus of the work effort that we were asking ABA to perform, it does cut out asking them to produce drawings and many different alternatives. The intent really is to get quickly and efficiently to an understanding of the community's interests so that then we could move to a subsequent work effort that would be focused on designing the key priority facility in sequence.
Anything else?
Chair?
Marty?
So, make no mistake, I want to see us move forward and do what the community wants. I have a few concerns. I didn't get this report, this letter, until, actually I didn't get it until this morning, I guess. It was sent out at early hour in the morning, so I'm not, have it totally digested, but I just wanted to let you know, the public know that I didn't get it in a timely manner. My concern is we have these listening campaigns already, and for those people that had something different, maybe this would be addressed to, maybe not you, that you weren't, or I'm not sure exactly what your involvement at that listening campaign was, but ball fields were a big part of the first meeting, which I didn't attend. I attended 2 of the 3 meetings. Numerous people were talking about the infrastructure. Improving downtown, having fiber installed in San Bruno. So those people that spoke out earlier, are they being left behind? And now we're going to concentrate on these 4. And it's my understanding, I don't recall exactly what the costs were, but we don't have the money to build all 4. So I just want to make that absolutely clear for people that are just tuning in now that we're not going to get all 4. With the money we have now, there could be a plan to try to figure out how to partner and get that money, but I just want to make that really clear. And with the money and not having the detail of we're going to have a heated swimming pool with a retractable roof, X amount of square feet, if we can have something that, kind of along what Ken was saying, I'm thinking a little bit more detail of what is it that we're going to get with the pool. What is it we're going to get with this library? It's going to have this, so many square feet, a story. Some of those design elements, rough, almost have to be in there, because the community is going to say, hey, I want a library that has this. I want to make sure that we have this. So, and then I guess my biggest concern is, how is this information being weighted? So we have a meeting, and we fill out papers, and you say what's important to the people, and they're going to prioritize them, and then that person who showed up to that meeting, that vote counts for something. The person who's online, who submits their vote, that counts for something. And then as you add everything up, how does it break down? And I think what happened, and maybe somebody can correct me from what happened in the listening campaign, there were no exact metrics of what was first, what was second, what was third. I mean, it's just, somebody can help correct me on that. But I want to make sure that when people are coming to these meetings and getting their input, that it counts for what? How many people, if 50%, 51% want X, then that recommendation is going to be reflected, that 51% of the people want the library. Whatever it is, however it works, and then we could have to make that decision with the recommendation that will come back. So I know that was a lot of talking, but those are the kind of the things that I want to make sure that our public, they might be thinking, well, we already told them what we wanted, and what I wanted isn't on there. You know, there's no dog park. Well, you know, that just wasn't enough. And then just making sure that we understand going into this meeting what that vote, what that priority from each resident, what that actually counts for, so that they could have assurances that it's really important for you to attend these meetings now. It was important before, but it's critical that the people attend these meetings now, going forward. Thank you.
Mayor Ray, members of the council, Nancy Krause, President of the San Bruno Community Foundation. Thank you, Council Member Vice Mayor Medina. First of all, referencing the listening campaign a year ago, Anderson Brule Architects came on board with the foundation after the listening campaign, and it was precisely for the reason to create a cost modeling that was sensitive to the input we got during the listening campaign. And from their cost modeling, which did include things beyond what we're considering tonight for the vision plan, the foundation then had to make a decision based on what we felt, and most of us were at all those listening meetings, what we felt was the real cry, if you will, from the community. And so this effort now, and then we did have a conversation with the council in the interim about a master plan, and we all agreed we needed a vision plan, and that's really the big difference here. And what Anderson Brule is going to provide for us is now bringing the community in around a vision for these primary facilities, which, oh, thank you. Took allergy medicine before I came. To build to engage the community in discussion of a vision around these primary facilities that benefit so many of the San Bruno community. And the important thing that's different, Vice Mayor Medina, about this campaign, this listening campaign, is that it is to do what Kate said, to now have the community come and tell us, what would you like to see in a library? What would you like to see in your pool? We didn't get that kind of feedback. How would you like the recreation center to function? Do you see a way where we could combine some of these facilities together possibly? So it's a whole new conversation. And it doesn't preclude down the road parks or fields, but what it's going to say to the community is, yes, this foundation has X number of dollars, and it absolutely will not cover any one of these projects probably. But collectively as a community, what would you then like? If we can only give you one thing or help with one thing, what would you like to see? And we haven't had that detailed conversation with our community. And that's what this will do. And again, the emphasis is on vision. and it's a vision for our city. And it doesn't preclude conversations down the road about other things, but it does let the community know the foundation is seriously limited to fund the entire vision for the city, but we can collectively come together and agree on what a partial vision could be.
Any discussion on the weighing of input obtained at a meeting, input obtained at a survey? How does that all get added up together and then broken up?
That's there. That's what they do.
The outreach and engagement work that we do isn't statistical in the way that, say, a Gallup survey might be, because it's really open to those that choose to participate. People aren't pre-selected or pre-chosen in any way. But the information that we do get is reflected where it's heard, how it's heard. So for instance, the information that would be gathered in an open community meeting would be shown as coming from that meeting, whereas information that might come from a survey would be reflected for that survey and then the number of individual responses that said one thing versus another. And then it's looked at both individually and together, but we don't presume to weight one more heavily than another. You know, just because someone gave information through a community meeting versus a survey doesn't mean that their opinion is any more or less important. And so we work very much to reflect the actual information that came in and where it came from, and even from what we know, who it came from, so that we can see the demographics that we're hearing from and seeing what parts of the community we're hearing from.
So it's not a poll, it's not a vote, it's just,
It's not a
getting-
formal vote,
Getting
yeah.
some input, and it's groupy.
And then showing who we've heard from and what they've said.
And if a number of attendees showed up and said, hey, you know, we really want the fields, is that too late?
Well, it's interesting because often at community meetings, community members will show up and they don't necessarily want to answer the specific questions that you want to ask, but we work to hear whatever that input is. And sometimes it is addressing the specific things that we're asking, but other times it's a little more outside the box, and we work to capture that as well. And sometimes what will come out of that, you know, we were alluded to that contingency plan. Sometimes there can be a strong enough voice coming forward that the process will adjust to consider that input, even though it wasn't a part of the original plan, but the plan's then responding to that influence. Does that answer?
No, it does, and thank you for that. I was just,
If I may make
Go
one
ahead.
comment. The decision by the foundation to recommend or bring forward these projects that we did in the proposal really is reflective of what we heard the most across all age groups and all demographics in this community. And that didn't necessarily pertain to fields, for example, but it did pertain overwhelmingly to the facilities we're looking at now, and trying to get input from the community. What would you like these facilities to look like? How would, as Kate said, how would they best serve? What is our vision in this community for those facilities? So,
all right.
okay.
Anything else or action on this item?
I'd like to introduce the resolution.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Rico Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Marty Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye.